Have you ever noticed something strange happening in your own life? You finally achieve something you've been working toward for months, maybe even years. The promotion comes through, the business milestone hits, your fitness goal is reached, and then, instead of feeling that wave of satisfaction and peace you imagined, something unexpected happens. Anxiety creeps in. Boredom sets in. An uncomfortable restlessness that you can't quite name. You find yourself scrolling through your phone more than usual. You start looking for the next challenge before you've even fully processed this one. If this resonates with you, you're not alone, and more importantly, you're experiencing something that many high achievers struggle with, but rarely talk about openly. You might be addicted to the struggle itself. Let's think about what this means. Throughout your life, you've probably learned that struggle equals progress. Work hard, and you get results. Push yourself to the limit, and you achieve extraordinary things. This becomes your operating system. This becomes how you understand the world and your place in it. Struggle becomes synonymous with meaning. Without the constant push, without the challenge, without the problem to solve, you start to feel like something is wrong. Maybe you're not doing enough. Maybe you're falling behind. Maybe you're becoming lazy or complacent. The peace that you thought you wanted suddenly feels dangerous. This phenomenon is more common than you might think, especially among people who've built their identity around achievement. Your brain has been conditioned over years, sometimes decades, to associate calm with stagnation, rest with regression, peace with the loss of momentum. When these calm moments arrive, your nervous system doesn't recognize them as a reward. Instead, it reads them as a threat. It triggers the same anxiety response as if something were actually wrong. And so you unconsciously create new problems to solve, new challenges to face, new mountains to climb. It's not something you're doing intentionally. It's wired into how you think and feel. Consider the person who finally takes a vacation after months of intense work. They arrive at the destination. The weather is beautiful, there's nothing on their calendar, and yet they're checking emails, they're thinking about projects back home. They're unable to be fully present because their brain is in withdrawal from the stimulation and purpose that struggle provides. Or think about the entrepreneur who sells their business for a life-changing amount of money. They've achieved the dream. Financial security is no longer a worry, and yet within weeks or months, they're restless, launching new ventures, unable to enjoy what they've built. These aren't character flaws. These are symptoms of struggle addiction. Your body becomes dependent on the neurochemicals associated with high stress and intense effort. When you're in struggle mode, your brain releases cortisol, adrenaline, and other stress hormones. These chemicals create a sense of urgency and focus. Over time, you become accustomed to this state. Your baseline shifts. Peace and calm actually feel like withdrawal. Your body is craving the chemical rush that comes from being in crisis mode or pushing yourself to the edge. Without it, you feel flat. You feel unmotivated. You feel like something is missing, even when objectively, everything is fine. Struggle gives you a story to tell yourself. It gives you an identity. You're the person who works harder than everyone else. You're the one who never quits. You're the one who pushes through pain and obstacles. This identity becomes central to how you see yourself. If you're not struggling, who are you? If life is easy, are you still that person you've built yourself up to be? This fear of losing your identity and peace is very real, and it operates mostly below your conscious awareness. So you keep the struggle going because in some deep way, you feel like your identity depends on it. There's also a form of control at play. When you're in struggle mode, you feel like you have some agency over the outcome. You work harder, you get better results. Cause and effect feel clear. But in periods of peace and ease, that sense of control becomes murkier. You can't force anything to happen. You can't outwork your way to more happiness or fulfillment. This loss of perceived control is deeply uncomfortable for high achievers. So you return to struggle because it's familiar. It's predictable. It's something you know how to do. You know how to push. You know how to fight. What you don't know is how to simply be. This addiction to struggle also ties into what psychologists call productive procrastination. You avoid the discomfort of peace by staying busy. You find legitimate reasons to work harder. There's always another project. There's always another improvement to make. There's always someone else you could be helping or something else you could be building. The busyness becomes a form of avoidance. It's socially acceptable avoidance because you're being productive. No one can criticize you for working hard or caring about your goals. But underneath, you're running from peace, the same way someone might run from any other kind of discomfort. The problem with this pattern is that it's unsustainable, and it prevents you from actually enjoying the fruits of your labor. You achieve things, but you never get to savor them. You reach goals, but you're already moving to the next one. You accumulate success, but it never feels like enough, because you're never truly present for it. You're always in the next moment, focused on the next challenge. This creates a kind of poverty of presence. You're successful, but you're not actually living your success. You're not experiencing the peace and ease that you worked so hard to create. There's also a spiritual or existential component to this struggle with peace. When you stop struggling, you come face to face with deeper questions. What is the meaning of my life if I'm not always achieving? What happens when I'm not in pursuit of something? Do I have worth beyond my accomplishments? These are uncomfortable questions, and they require a different kind of courage than the courage to push harder. They require the courage to be still and to sit with uncertainty. They require you to find meaning and identity in something other than achievement. Many people unconsciously keep themselves in struggle mode, specifically to avoid these deeper questions. So what does it look like to break this pattern? First, you have to develop awareness that this pattern exists in you. You have to start noticing when you're uncomfortable with peace, when you feel compelled to create new problems or new challenges, right when you could rest, when you can't sit still, even though there's nothing urgent demanding your attention. This awareness is the foundation. Without it, you'll just keep repeating the cycle unconsciously. Second, you need to understand that peace is not the enemy of achievement. This is crucial. You don't have to choose between being successful and being at peace. The narrative you've accepted is false. In fact, periods of genuine rest and peace often lead to better decisions, more creativity, and more sustainable success. Your brain needs downtime to consolidate what you've learned. Your body needs recovery to perform at its best. Peace is not laziness. Rest is not failure. These are recovery states that are absolutely necessary for optimal functioning. Third, you can practice tolerance for peace. You can actively choose to spend time in calm environments and quiet moments, not as a reward after achieving something, but as a regular practice. Sit with the discomfort when it comes. Notice the anxiety. Notice the urge to fill the silence or find something to work on, and just let those feelings be there without acting on them. Over time, your nervous system will recalibrate. Your brain will learn that peace is not a threat. It's not a sign that you're falling behind. It's simply a different state that you're capable of experiencing. Fourth, you can separate your identity from your achievements. This is profound work, but it's essential. You are not only the things you accomplish. You have inherent worth that doesn't depend on how hard you're working or what you're producing. This doesn't mean you stop caring about achievement or excellence. It means you stop letting achievement be the only source of your sense of self. You develop other sources of identity. You're a person who loves your family. You're someone who appreciates beauty. You're a human being capable of joy and connection and presence. These things matter just as much as anything you produce. Fifth, you can intentionally practice activities that don't have a productive purpose, not because you're accomplishing something through them, but simply because they feel good or nourishing. Read a book just for enjoyment, not to learn something useful. Take a walk without tracking your steps or your calories. Spend time with people without the goal of networking or advancing yourself. These activities might feel frivolous at first if you're used to everything needing to serve a larger purpose, but they're actually essential for your development as a whole human being. Sixth, you can work with a therapist or coach to explore the roots of this pattern. Often, struggle addiction goes back to earlier experiences in your life. Maybe you grew up in an environment where love or approval had to be earned through achievement. Maybe you learned early that your worth was tied to your productivity. Maybe you experienced instability that made you feel like you always had to be doing something to keep things under control. Understanding the origins of these patterns can help you see them more clearly and choose different responses. It's also important to recognize that this pattern likely served you well at some point. Struggle addiction isn't something that happened to you by accident. It probably helped you achieve things that were meaningful to you. It helped you overcome obstacles. It helped you build resilience. The problem is that the same pattern that was helpful in one context becomes harmful in another. So you're not trying to erase this part of yourself. You're trying to expand your repertoire. You're trying to develop the capacity to struggle when that's what's needed, and to rest when that's what's needed. You're trying to become flexible rather than rigid. One thing that can really help is to reframe what rest and peace actually are. They're not passive states of doing nothing. They're active, important functions that your body and mind need. Rest is when your brain consolidates memories and makes new neural connections. Rest is when your immune system strengthens. Rest is when your body repairs itself at the cellular level. Peace is when your nervous system can regulate itself and return to baseline.